Chapter 12 of The Wheel of Fortune by a Self-Made Man. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Chapter 12. Captain Staggerback. When Bert reported at the office that afternoon at 5 o'clock, he found nearly a dozen other canvassers on hand awaiting their turn to put in their accounts for the day. When his turn came, he handed his documents to the manager's assistant. The young man counted a dozen signed orders for picturesque California, then looked at Bert and whistled softly. He walked over to the manager's desk and showed him the result of the new canvasser's first day, which, as it appeared, exceeded the returns of the most experienced man in the firm's employ for the day. Mr. Prescott, the manager, wheeled about in his chair and asked Bert to come within the railing. "For our first day's work, this is the most remarkable performance that has come under my observation since I've had charge of this department," he said to the lad. "You are either a born crackerjack at the business, or you have had a most astonishing run of luck. How did you do it?" "Give it up," smiled Bert innocently. "I simply talked to the ladies for all I was worth, and the books did the rest." "I didn't expect you to turn in more than 3 orders at the outside," he said. "You made a phenomenal beginning, and have established a record for a first day with us. I shall be better able to decide upon your ability as a canvasser after you have put in a couple of weeks at it. It's my opinion that you are a comer. However, time will show. I congratulate you on the start you have made, and trust you will keep the ball rolling. If you do, you will soon have a bank account." Bert might have told him that he had one already, for he had deposited his $200 in the Beehive Savings Institution. The record made by Bert during his first full week was so encouraging that both Mr. Prescott, the manager, and Mr. Love, the publisher, were satisfied the boy would soon become a star canvasser. He kept up the good work right along, and as a consequence his bank account grew steadily, for he acquired no bad habits, though many of his companions in the business, taking a fancy to him on account of his genial social ways, tried to induce him to adopt their free and easy methods of having a good time. Bert, however, while not acting mean in any way, managed to steer clear of the temptations which constantly assailed him, and put his spare time in to better advantage than haunting bar-rooms, small gambling resorts, billiard saloons, and such places frequented by his associates. He joined the Young Men's Christian Association, and spent much time in the library and gymnasium of that institution. He went to church regularly every Sunday, and tried to deport himself as a Christian young man should do. The one sorrow of his life was the uncertainty as to the fate of his father. In spite of the treatment he and his dead mother had received from Bert Hawley during the later years, he could not forget that the man, however low he may have sunk, was still his father, and that he had been a kind and considerate parent before adversity soured and warped his disposition and habits. Mrs. Morgan, the widow lady with whom Bert boarded, had come to like the bright-faced boy very much. "The nicest boy I ever saw in my life," she assured her friends and acquaintances. "He's so smart and so regular in his habits that he will make a fine man." Bert, who occupied a small back room, was Mrs. Morgan's only boarder. The good lady, however, rented her best rooms to lodgers. About this time the square apartment next to Bert's became vacant, but in a day or so it was taken by a tall military-looking man with jet-black eyes, a pair of bushy whiskers, and a gold front tooth. Bert met him in the hall the day after his arrival, and the boy returned the very polite bow the stranger favored him with. That evening, when Bert came upstairs after supper, he noticed the new lodger's door ajar. Before he could get his room key out of his pocket, the stranger opened his door, and, noticing Bert, asked him if he would not come in. The boy hesitated, observing which the stranger remarked that, being a stranger in Philadelphia, he would take it as a favor if Bert would honor him with his society for a few moments, as he would like some information about the city. Bert could not very well refuse to oblige the gentleman, and entered his room. "Sit down, young man. Let me introduce myself. I am Captain Staggerback, of the British Army, and I have come to America on a business visit, with which I also hope to combine a little pleasure. Your name is?" "Bert Hawley." "Thank you. I am pleased to make your acquaintance. You seem to be a bright young fellow. I presume you are well acquainted with the city?" And the military man fixed the boy with his piercing black eyes. "Very well, sir. I've only been here a little over 2 months myself, Ah, indeed. You are employed, of course?
Yes, sir.
What business, may I ask?
The subscription book business. Our office is on South Ninth Street, near Chestnut.
I brought a letter of introduction to a family on Highbrow Street,
mentioning one of the most aristocratic neighborhoods in Philadelphia.
But unfortunately it was in my pocketbook, with the bulk of my available funds, which was stolen from me in New York the day before yesterday.
Stolen from you? Exclaimed Bert in surprise.
Yes, actually lifted in a streetcar. We call them tram cars on the other side, nodded the captain.
The loss of your pocketbook must have inconvenienced you greatly.
I am practically strapped, to use the American expression. I shall be obliged to sell several railway bonds I happen to have in my possession, and which I did not expect to dispose of so soon, said the captain, running his fingers through his whiskers.
You ought to be able to do that without any trouble, remarked Bert.
Undoubtedly, for they are readily negotiable. But the awkward part of the matter is just this. I am due in Trenton on a business engagement early tomorrow, and will not have time to get to a broker's, and I need $100 right away. I have a certificate of mining stock for a block of 5,000 shares, which I would put up as security for the loan of $100 for 24 hours, and I would pay a handsome bonus for the accommodation. Do you think you could induce the landlady to accommodate me to that extent?
I might ask her, said the boy with some hesitation.
I wish you would, said the captain glibly. Tell her I will return her the sum of $125 tomorrow night. And now that I think of it, you might do me another favor, and it would be a sort of additional security for the lady, should she advance the money in question. I am satisfied that you are an honest boy. I'll entrust you with the sale of 5 of my $100 railroad bonds. You can dispose of them at the market rate to some broker near your office and bring the money here to me tomorrow evening. It will rescue me from my financial embarrassment. Will you do this for me?
Certainly, if you wish me to, answered Bert with his customary politeness, not a little surprised that a stranger should repose such confidence in his honesty on so brief and informal an acquaintance.
Thank you,
said the British officer, picking up a small grip within easy reach and opening it.
Here are the 5 railway bonds, Canadian Pacific, you see. You can show them to the landlady and tell her you are going to sell them for me tomorrow. Here is the mining stock certificate, the Jumbo mine of Cripple Creek. I am holding it as an investment. Tell the lady to retain it as security for $125, which I engage to return her tomorrow night.
If Bert had any misgivings as to the propriety of asking Mrs. Morgan to loan her new lodger $100 on a security of whose actual value he was ignorant, the possession of the 5 Canadian Pacific bonds reassured him, and convinced the boy that the British captain was honest in his effort to raise the money he wanted. But then the boy did not know as much about the captain as he found out later on. He went downstairs and interviewed the widow, who happened to have the money in the house and was willing to lend it to her lodger on the representations of Bert. Indeed, she would have let the boy have it on his mere word alone, as she was thoroughly assured of his integrity. But in this case she took the certificate and put it away in a bureau drawer, while Bert carried the money upstairs to the captain.
I shan't forget this favor, said the gentleman as he stowed the notes away in his vest pocket. Will you come out and have a drink with me?
Thank you, but that is something I don't indulge in, replied Bert.
No? said the captain, raising his eyebrows as if he were surprised. Perhaps you are right to keep away from it. We military men are accustomed to crooking the elbow with considerable frequency.
I am opposed to liquor because I have seen a great deal too much of its evil effects. Some people may stand it all right, but there are others which it brings to ruin.
The boy was thinking of his father. I dare say you are correct. Perhaps you don't object to a cigar?
I never smoke either.
You're quite a model youth, said the gentleman with an imperceptible sneer.
I do not claim to be that, answered the boy respectfully, but I always do try to do the right thing, as near as I can.
It's evident that my bonds are quite safe in your keeping, said the captain with a peculiar look.
You have no reason to worry on that account,
replied Bert as he bowed himself out of the room. End of chapter 12.